Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to a special presentation from the Codex Station. This is an interview with David Hazan, the writer for Mad Cave Studios, Nottingham. Sitting next to me on either side here is Tone Supa, the sci-fi swordsman. Guys, how you doing today?
Good,
Doing
thank
great.
you.
Doing great.
Fantastic. David and I go. Oh, go
I
ahead.
didn't know you were the sci-fi swordsman. That's pretty cool.
There's also sci-fi swordsman and sage gamer.
Yes, absolutely. David, before we get started, would you mind to let everybody know where they can find you on social media and where we can find issues of Nottingham aside from local comic stores?
Okay, so you can find me on Twitter at David T. Hazan or on my website at davidhazan.com. And as for Nottingham, you can find it on madcavestudios.com or Amazon, Barnes & Noble, pretty much any good bookseller at this point. Yeah.
There you go. And don't forget your local comic shop too, guys, so you can
Don't forget them.
Yeah,
Do not
exactly.
forget them.
Have to get your issues there. Yeah. Before we get started, David, the hardcover for Nottingham is out. Would you mind to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So it's limited to 500, I believe. It's really awesome quality, first hardcover I've had of my work. So all of them have book plates signed by myself and Shane.
Look at that.
And it's also got a lovely black and white edition of issue 1 at the back as well. For those of you process nerds, you can see just Shane's inks and the letters, which is an experience. And I hope they continue this for volume 2 because Shane's inks on volume 2 are even more awesome. But yeah, you can find this on Mad Cave Studios website only, and I believe it's only available in the US, Canada at the moment.
Okay. And what issue is Nottingham at on store shelves right now? I believe it's issue
9 comes out this week, this coming Wednesday. However, this is just contains the volume 1 issues, as you can see here. So this is just number 1 to 5 plus the black and white edition of number 1 on top of that.
Awesome. Very awesome.
Highly recommend pick up everyone that's out there. Remember, I've always been an advocate of getting away from kind of just the big superhero stuff in comics, right? And if you want that, it's out there. Marvel and DC, yeah, they're fine. But there's so much goodness in the comic world that's not superheroes and tights. And Nottingham is a story that's about that. And I utterly loved it from beginning to where I've read now. And with that, I guess we'll dive right in, David, and jump in with the first question. Right. So my first question for you is quite simply, how reading the writing, it's very granular. I love the pacing of everything. How did you figure out that you wanted to become a comic writer, that's the path you wanted to walk on?
I'd always been interested in writing, and prose just never really clicked for me. And by chance, I'm very much a latecomer to the comics world. I'd always been into the adaptations of comics stuff, but never really been into the culture of actually buying and reading comics. Part of that was because, people discouraged it in me growing up. And then some lovely and generous colleagues of mine got really sick of me talking about the stuff without actually reading the source material, and so they kind of just shoved stuff into my hands, and it was a bit of a revelation for me. I was like, oh, this is great. Why was I not doing this before? And here we are, not 4 years later, making comics for a living, so that's pretty cool.
It is. It is, especially through the bit of adversity of the lack of encouragement.
Go into that a little bit. What type of things were you wanting to read that people just kind of either pulled you away from or told you to avoid altogether?
I don't know. I don't think it was an active thing. I think it was just a passive, like, sort of air of comics are for kids.
Yeah, funny books.
And even though I was a kid, it's like this is the bizarre thing, right? You know, as a child, you get told this is an immature medium, but you're also like 12.
The 4,000 books I have over here, my kids love looking at them. Don't touch them, but you can
Okay.
look
I
at them.
should also say, not for children. Children do not read this.
No. Dad, what's Nottingham about? Son, you'll learn about that in high school.
Ooh.
Just give it a couple of years.
My uncle would shove that right in my hand. Here you go, kid.
Yeah. Well,
that's what uncles are for. I say that to my younglings now, my nieces and my nephews. And my dad would never have given it to me. My uncle's like, that's your dad. I'm not a dad. I'm an uncle. Right?
Here, read Vampirella, read Lady Death. Go ahead and read Evil Ernie. That's okay. David, I wanted to ask you, what was it that really told you that you had started in the comics industry? Like, what was it that got the ball rolling and then eventually had the door open up for you?
I'm not sure entirely how to answer this question.
You can pretend if you want to. That's okay.
I guess, look, like the thing is, seeing your first book, you know, sell out 5 times is kind of, you know, the first issue of your first book is kind of a bit of a revelation.
Yeah.
And I don't think anything can really top that.
So is Nottingham then your first official comic work in the industry?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Wow. Talk about an opening shot. Congratulations,
dude.
Well done.
Yeah, because like when I go into my comic shop in town, I always ask them to recommend things to me, and usually it's single issues or something like that. Well, the one day I went in there and got this, that's when he's like, hey, I got a trade that I want you to read. Can you buy a trade this week? I was like, yeah, sure. What is it? He's like, well, it's Nottingham. I had never heard anything about it before. And I was like, yeah, I'll check it out. And he told me a little bit about it being about the sheriff of Nottingham, Robin Hood, and things like that. I sat down and I read that the day I got home, and it turned out to be one of the best things that I had read this year. It was absolutely amazing. So with that, I guess maybe go into a little bit of how you approached or how you decided that Mad Cave was the place to put Nottingham out.
Well, that was just entirely happenstance, I guess. I won Mad Cave's talent search in 2019, and they asked me to pitch a noir, and I was like, this is where the idea came from. They asked me to pitch a noir, and I didn't want to do anything that was conventional. Because I think, you know, like, how do you top, you know, Ed Brubaker or somebody like that writing noir? You can't. So you just have to go different. And so I went different. That led me to a medieval setting, and I thought the Crusades would be a good kind of corollary for, you know, World War II and post World War II anxiety. And that landed me on Robin Hood, and I was like, okay, well, what if, you know, the sheriff was a cop? And then all of the other characters' roles kind of fell into place after that, and it just worked.
And that actually takes me right into the next question that we were going to ask. You've already started it, which was your concept surrounding Nottingham. Like, how did you get to this? Because for me, I guess other than the actual classic book, you've got the movies, right? And everyone comes back to, at least for the U.S. audience, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and so that really set my thinking of Robin Hood until I read Nottingham, right? And once I read it, it immediately takes what I think of the characters and turns it on its head.
Oh yeah,
and I love that aspect of it. So so you've already walked the dog on exactly how you kind of got to that's kind of that subject matter, that topic. But what about the characters themselves? You know, how did you string the concepts into from what they were into what they will be inside of your writing, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think when you think about the kind of, Marion is always a good example for this kind of question, which is when you think about traditional character roles in a noir, you just have to find ways to justify how to fit those characters into that role. So the sheriff fits perfectly into the role of the kind of hard-boiled detective. And after you accept that, then you have to accept, well, okay, Marion, like there's the real one standout female character in these stories, and so you need to give them the one standout female role in a noir, which is usually the femme fatale. And it's like it just kind of it all fit into place without me having to do much legwork after that.
Yeah.
It's like with the sheriff, even though like he's always been portrayed as a bad guy, the sense that I get with volume 1 of Nottingham is he still is. And at the moments when you think that you can really start to trust him and like him, he himself turns that around on you too, and goes back to kind of those darker, more evil roots as he's chasing after Robin Hood and Little John and Maid Marian and things like that. And even with Robin Hood too, like what you expect Robin Hood to be, like Tone said, you just turned it right on its head, and he is completely different than what you would normally expect him to be. And I think that that is a larger allure to the series itself.
Yeah, and I think that there's something to be said for the not people have I expressed some frustration about not knowing who to root for, and the answer is you root for the people that are about to get stepped on by all of these other people because they're all horrible. And like, despite the fact that the sheriff is the least horrible person
He
of this
still is,
cast of
though.
horrible, he's still an awful person, but such a sort of magnetic character because he's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, and just everybody can relate to that.
He seems like this grizzled detective that is just tired every day, but he still has to go out there and he still has to do it. His boss, the prince, is a real big jerk and he wishes that something would happen to him, but he just can't.
It's like no one trustworthy around him. I still think the way you, I still think the way you described him, I do think the word you used is perfect, hard boiled, and that encapsulates every panel of him. What I expect from him in any situation, there's going to be kind of the hardball route based upon whatever his goal is for that situation, and I just loved it. I love that theme through it.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about your rock star penciler for a second, Shane Connery.
Penciler, inker.
Yeah, you've got an amazing creative team. You got an amazing creative team around you on the book. Question: now, did you guys meet through Mad Cave, or how did that team come together?
Yeah, so Shane was also a winner of that 2019 talent search on the art side of things, and Mad Cave just threw us together and basically were like, make a comic, and I think it worked.
You're both winners. Make a winner. Okay.
Yeah, no, I think I'm especially thankful for the freedom that Mad Cave really gave us to do what we wanted. And yeah, we kind of just clicked. I think Shane got what I was going for and then took it in a new direction as well. And there's this thing that he did with all of the characters kind of, they embody almost all of their inner turmoil, in their faces and their statures, and it's just brilliant, like.
Yeah.
And he's just a lovely dude to work with. And also our colorist, Luca Romano, just absolutely, just a joy to work with. I think that's the big thing that makes this book so much fun to make, is that everybody is lovely. And although we don't actually interact, at least, like this often, we do shoot messages to each other often, and we just have a blast making this book. So
yeah, the colors are one of my favorite parts about reading comics in general, and especially with Mad Cave. And I mean, looking at Tone's background right there, you can see the work that Romano put in with the colors. But like with volume 1, you had those come out pretty regularly, and then there was a large break in between volume 1 and volume 2. Was was COVID a reason for that, or was there another reason why there was such a long pause in between volumes 1 and 2, or were you working on other things in between that time frame?
So Mad Cave doesn't really do ongoings, and we basically only get the green light to do another one when the pre-orders are final for the first issue of the one that we've already done.
Okay.
So yeah, it's kind of like works on more of like a TV basis, where we get renewed for another season if we do a good job.
Gotcha.
So that's what that is then, is volume 2 is like season 2 of Nottingham. Then
it's definitely how I would structure it's kind of how I would structure it in a season like way if we were ever to take it to television.
That's awesome.
I had a lot of thinking between volume 1 and volume 2 about how to approach volume 2. And volume 2 was initially going to be kind of more in line with volume 1. And I just kind of, when I got to actually doing it, I realized that we should sort of just get to the meat rather than still kind of eating the bread. And so I drew out that idea and I jumped into what was my like third arc idea. And,
wow. Okay.
Yeah. So we just leapt into this one.
So when I started this series, I really thought that Sheriff Blackthorn was going to be my favorite character, right?
He's not.
That's where I started. No, he's not. But quickly, no, he's not. I mean, I love the character and the situations he's put in, but my character, by the time I get a little bit later in the series, is clearly Lady Marion. Marion is just when in the first book and when with her interaction, it's, she's kind of really got this sultry thing going on, and then it flips to fiery when necessary and aggressive, and that just continues to her character continues to unfold as the series goes on, as the book goes on, and I just loved it to where I get to a point where I'm like, oh yeah, she's got something going on, right? There's a plan here. And so I guess my question is, do you have a favorite character out of the characters you've written there?
That's an interesting question. I think I identify a lot with the sheriff in a way, and he's always just fun to write because he's always so goddamn grumpy, and it like I get to hive off those feelings into him. And Marion is fun to write. She's a blast to write, but the sheriff, has my heart. I also like Little John as well. He's a bit of fun to write too, because he's a bit, he's not so quick on the uptake, and it's fun to write that too.
That's awesome. That's
awesome. Books I could see a whole series on Little John. I really could. I could get more Little John. Excuse me, more if I were placing an order at a restaurant. More Little John, please. Right.
Thank you.
So I guess we're going to go into I guess one of our final questions. I won't say the final, but Is there anything else about the book, the series, Mad Cave, that you'd like to share with the viewers and the listeners out there?
I guess, please check it out if it sounds interesting to you at Mad Cave. The more of you that get into this, the more of it we get to do, and that would be very cool if we got to do more. So.
Well, let me throw this one at you, David. What would you say to somebody? Because you said that you won Mad Cave's talent search. So what would you say to somebody that is aspiring to be a comic book writer? I know there's the basic things of like continue, don't stop. But what would you really tell them, like the meat and potatoes of what you would do or suggest to them to do to be a comic writer?
One is learn how to network, because actually writing is about 20% of this job, and 80% of it is either working with people or making connections. And it's super important that you understand how to network and how to maintain relationships with editors, because that's how you get more work. And the other thing I would say is brush up on a little bit on your rights as a creator. And also the perseverance thing is important. It's so important. And I don't know who the quote was from, but it was somebody somebody who said that the people who are in comics now are just the ones who never quit. Like that's the real answer. And I know I say this from a position of some privilege, because my journey into comics has been, I think, much swifter than a lot of people's. But that doesn't mean that I didn't put in the hard work, writing other things beforehand, and it's just me taking all of those lessons learned from that and applying it to comics. So yeah, work hard and keep doing it, and you'll get there.
Right on.
Excellent.
With Mad Cave, do you have any projects in the future? Anything in the oven that you can talk about?
I know you threw away the key on us in the show.
No, you're putting me on the spot here. What I will say is I can't talk about it, but there is stuff coming next year, which is exciting and different, and some stuff for people who love Nottingham, and some stuff for other people too. So, and then that's not to say those groups won't overlap, but you know what I mean. Yes, new fun and exciting stuff from Mad Cave and other places as well next year, which hopefully will be announced in the next 6 or so months.
Perfect, guys. You heard it here. So keep an eye out on David's Twitter page, David T. Hazan, and I'm sure he'll let you know. And then we'll let you know right after. So, David, another question. It's like with what you're doing now with the noir stuff with Nottingham and things like that. If you were able to do like a superhero book, did you ever have anything in mind that you wanted to do, or a character in particular that has always intrigued you more than others that you would like to write someday?
Yeah, like I'd love to write Batwoman. I'd love to give Jessica Jones a shot. That would be incredibly fun. But yeah, Batwoman was kind of like my, the first comic that kind of captured my imagination.
Okay.
In a way, because I'm referring to specifically the Greg Rucka, J.H. Williams run Batwoman Elegy, which was like that Detective Comics run that kind of reintroduced her. There's something so like just captivating in like the Williams art is just phenomenal, but the way that the style shifts, and there's just like a lot of formalistic stuff going on, and it's just and I would love to get the opportunity to write Batwoman,
Right on.
So
right on.
That begs the question. So who's your Mount Rushmore, right? Who's David Hazan's personal Mount Rushmore of and I say Mount Rushmore, I guess it's a US reference, but who are if you had to look at these are my top 4 greats, that you look at their work and maybe you like, I want to get better at this. I'm inspired this way. I want to get better at this. I'm inspired this way. Who would they be?
Okay. That's such a hard question. Tom King.
Ooh, right on. I'm writing these down.
I don't know. Now there's more pressure.
I'm taking notes,
no
David.
pressure. No pressure. Just curious.
Like, how do you not say like Grant Morrison, Alan Moore? But I feel like those are the expected answers. I don't know.
Alan Moore's a no-brainer, though. I mean, like, you can take his stuff with Miracle Man or Swamp Thing or Watchmen, V for Vendetta, or anything like that, and you know that you're going to get a good story. Maybe in the 90s when he got really cranky and really tired of things, the stories are a little different, like what he did in Spawn and Image and things like that. But like 1963 with Image, what Alan Moore did there, that's something that I've always wanted to read. And I heard that it's both good and like a serious jab toward the major portion of the industry.
Yeah. Look, I don't know that it says a lot about people if you say like Alan Moore is in your, like, it doesn't say a lot about you. You know what I mean? Like,
but you know, the way I associate that though is quite simply, I think there are some writers out there that, based upon their contributions to the industry, what they've written, their body of work, they're made men. In the mafia sense, they're made men, and and the reason they are is because what they've done. And I think it's fair to say that, hey, if this work was impactful for me, we can all appreciate it because it was impactful for all of us, you know. So I think that's fair. If you say that's a guy, then that's a person, then absolutely.
I'll name some current people who inspire me. Ram V inspires the hell out of me. Obviously Tom King, Kieran Gillen. Yeah, that's my like current list of, you know, will buy pretty much anything that they do.
Right on.
Yeah.
And there are so many more. I don't want to like snub people. It's really, you know, like,
that's not my intention. I apologize. Not my intention at all. Not trying to put you on the spot like that. Right?
It's really hard to do the only 4 when you just love comics so much.
We need to have David. We need to bring you on for Breaking the Code, top 5 comic writers, and then that'll give you an opportunity to really pick your top 5 and throw them out there.
Notice the body language. He literally like, oh,
no, thank you.
I don't want to set the internet on fire accidentally.
Well, go ahead, Tom.
I think we're in I've maintained for years with all the, you know, I can't speak to globally. Here in the US, there's a lot of social issues surrounding comics right now. So there's a lot of contentiousness in the comic community, and it has been for about a decade, it feels like, roughly. Whether people are screaming about this or screaming about this, it not being this, or content, or exclusion or inclusion, there's always something, right? But I maintain that right now we're in what I feel is a new golden age of comic writing. And I think writers like yourself are getting the opportunity to create an outside of the normal left and right boundaries of comicdom. You're getting the opportunity to tell the stories that you want to tell. And I keep poking our listeners and our viewers that no matter what you like, there's something out there right now that scratches your itch somewhere. And Nottingham fits that perfectly for me. It was a story I never knew I needed. And I read it and I was like, oh, this is it right here. Right. I love this.
Well, see, so, that's to add on to that, Tone. That's the good thing about, like what you said, we're in the new golden age. It gives an opportunity to check out things like Nottingham or other companies that are smaller than the big three, and it really puts a spotlight on them to not only read Nottingham and things like that, but other things that they're putting out. Because if that one title is good, how good are the other titles? They have to be at least as intriguing as this.
So I'm glad that
I hope I'm just, crushing everybody else and nobody else is as good as me. No. I'm just like, that's the thing. I think a lot of people assume that comics as an industry is hugely competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And it is. But the biggest advantage that you will have over another creator is your connections with other creators. And I think the ability to lift other people up and be lifted up by other people it's so crucial in this world. And there are so many people who are so willing to lift you up, and I've made enduring friendships from comics and from people who would otherwise be seen as someone who's a competitor. But it's far more important, and I've learned a whole lot more from my connections with these people than I have, say, for instance, competing with them pitching something. Like, it's just I can't describe how good the feeling of community when it works in comics is. It's awesome.
That's amazing.
Well, the Codex Station are lifting you up and Nottingham up, and this creative team that puts out this amazing book, and Mad Cave Comics, we're lifting you up right now. And the Codex Station listeners and viewers should lift them up also.
Yeah, definitely, guys. If you haven't had an opportunity, go to Mad Cave's website, madcavestudios.com, where you can not only get copies of Nottingham, but other cool stuff that is just a little bit lower. So David is on top.
No, don't say that. Don't say that. Think it, but don't say it.
Okay, there you go. Well, I think we have hit the end of this road. Guys, at your local comic shop, Free Comic Book Day was not too long ago. If there are any copies of this left, go grab it. This story is amazing. It's awesome. It's wonderful. The artwork in there is beautiful. I love this. It's a Christmas story, and I'm going to read this to my kids at Christmas time. So
what?
No.
These murderous merry men have running around the house.
No,
Rose, why are you hiding in the forest? Who's Rose, Dad? Listen, guys, and I'll tell you.
The kids would be merry men all the way. They would be merry men.
That's right. They'll be happy. It's Christmas time. We'll sing Silent Night and be done with it.
Oh,
before we get out of here. Oh, go ahead, David.
I was just gonna say that was like my favorite thing to write. I think of all of the Nottingham issues I've written, that was my favorite. Like the challenge of a new story, a done in one, plus like it representing what the series was so wild for me, and I feel like I hit the mark. And I just had a blast doing it. So I hope people really enjoyed that.
I think so too, because I reread it again before we all got on together, and I went into it with the frame of mind of, just forget everything you've read about Nottingham before and go into this and see if this is something that you could read. And that's exactly what it is. It's a great introduction into the world. It doesn't give you every bit of information. That's what the trade is for. But if you're brand new to Nottingham, the Free Comic Book Day issue is absolutely something to get your feet wet, so you can go get the trade or buy the hardcover.
And both the first issue and the Free Comic Book Day issue are available for free digitally on Mad Cave's website. So
even better. So now there's no reason to not go check it out, guys. It's absolutely free. So the only thing you're going to miss out is the money to buy the issues afterwards after you read it. Okay. Anyways, we're at the end here. So before we get out of here, David, one more time, let people know where they can find you on social media and your website, and even Mad Cave too.
So I'm at davidhazan.com or twitter.com/davidthazan. And you can find Mad Cave at I think madcavestudios.com.
Yep.
I had to double check. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's where you can find me and where you can find Nottingham.
Yep, absolutely, guys. And you can order your issues of Nottingham from there if you cannot find them at your local comic shop. I'm going to get the business out of the way, and then Tone is going to take us out of here in this wonderful, awesome time. Guys, don't forget to find us on all the socials: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, YouTube, Discord, and all podcast streaming platforms. All you got to do is type in the Codex Station, and that is where we will be. Follow us right here on Twitch, subscribe over on YouTube so you can see interviews like this with David, ones we've done with Daryl Banks, our one shots, and so much more, guys. Don't forget, at the Codex Station, and that is where we will be.
And everyone, I would like to thank you all for taking the time to tune in to us tonight, to watch, to follow. Take this, share it with your friends, your family, invite people to join the clan that we have here. We build content for you. We bring these great writers in to discuss and share with you. You are the reason that we build content. Now, as you move through your day, remember, we love these comics because the characters in these comics generally aspire to be the best version of themselves that they can, right? And that's what makes them heroes. And as you move through your day, remember that here at the Codex Station, we love comics, we love heroes, and you are a hero. Take care of yourselves.